Hey guys, Mr. T-Bones here. Gonna go ahead and it's back to me talking. Got a number of gripes with this stuff here. They make some things confusing, and then they also are just straight up wrong by like 100 years on something else. So we'll go ahead and talk about that stuff. Beginning with Gaius Julius Caesar. Okay, so Gaius Julius Caesar is a very interesting figure. Because he started off as part of the sort of not underclass, like he wasn't a lower class citizen by any means, but he was part of the folks who were more on the democracy side. They wanted more rights. They weren't the richest, most elite. Okay, so decent, wealthy for sure. But they were not part of the what we'd call oligarchy. And he joined him and his family kind of had some beef with the higher ups, and so in order to kind of avoid a lot of that, he joined the military, and he very, very quickly showed off how capable he was and became a leader of some distinction. Okay, he was one of the most interesting figures and one of the best generals of the ancient world. I think he probably Hannibal has it in my mind for the best general in the ancient world. We saw a lot about that last week. I would put Hannibal above Alexander the Great, even though Hannibal did lose versus Alexander the Great, who never lost. Alexander the Great had a lot more advantages than Hannibal did. He had better armor, troops, and tactics than his opponents. And as such, he did not have the same challenges that Hannibal had. Hannibal was facing Rome just basic, almost in its prime. Not quite in its prime, but he was facing Rome when Rome was a pretty big, scary threat, and he won fight after fight. And the only time he lost was when he was forced by his Senate, the folks at Carthage, to fight a battle he didn't want to fight. Caesar, however, getting back on hand, Caesar was a brilliant military strategist, and he is going to win victory after victory. And because of the popularity that he gets as a general, his soldiers became loyal to him. And that's going to be crucial, because what you see is these generals who, when the soldiers are loyal to them and cannot be bribed away because they know that nobody who fights Caesar is going to win. Caesar's going to beat every battle he gets into. And so you could accept more money to join a different side, say, for the Civil War, but you are going to lose, and so that money is worth nothing if you die, right? So it was better to be on his side. And he treated his soldiers very well. Like, they saw him as one of their own. They saw that he rose up through the ranks of soldiers. They saw that he did what he asked them to do. They were super loyal to him. And it was, there's a whole bunch of stories I can get into about that, but that would take too long. In the beginning, Caesar ends up allying himself with the two most powerful men in Rome, okay, Pompey and Crassus. These two, Pompey is named after, I think, his family, but Pompey is different, okay? So Pompey and Crassus. These are the two other high, powerful leaders in Rome, but they're not military leaders, okay? And eventually this triumvirate, this group of three that's sort of kind of divided the power of Rome between themselves in this sort of alliance they've made, it breaks down. Crassus dies, supposedly of natural causes, and Pompey and Caesar start to get into a struggle of power. And this is where we get the most iconic line of the die is cast. Technically, Caesar was not allowed to bring his army closer to Rome. He was, let's see if I can show you a map really quickly. So this right here, okay, is the Danube. And he crosses from one side of the Danube where he's supposed to be fighting over to the other side. And when he crosses that Danube, okay, he is breaking his oath to the Roman Senate, and he is changing, and he's going up against the will of Rome. When he does that, he takes his loyal soldiers back to Italy. He is doing so with the express goal of taking control over Pompey, okay? Because he doesn't think that Pompey is going to lead Rome well. And he knows that if he just stays in Gaul, Pompey's going to do whatever he wants because Pompey is in control of Rome. So he and his soldiers leave Gaul, okay, and they move to this side of the Danube. When they do that, okay, he's saying crossing the Rubicon, and maybe the Rubicon? Anyway, he crosses a river, and he says the die is cast because he's already broken the rule. He's already broken the law. So when he breaks that law by crossing over the river, he then heads to Italy. After a pretty bloody but successful for him, he's way better leader than Pompey, fight, he takes power. Okay, in August of 48, although it was not called August at that time, that will come later. Okay, they're going to change the month system at the time. But in any case, at 48 BC, okay, so still counting down, he takes control. Now, here's the thing. He does not immediately, and this is very confusing here, does not immediately declare himself dictator for life. He has 4 years where he is in power, okay, sole power, but he has yet to claim that he is dictator for life. He is going to, about a month before he dies, claim that title, dictator for life. In the meantime, he does a lot of reforms, okay? He creates a lot of jobs, a lot of public works, a lot of roads. He starts a canal to go through Corinth in Greece. A lot of really big projects, and the people love him for it, okay? And during that time, he packs the Senate with all of his most loyal fans and loyal supporters, okay? Which is why when his loyal supporters stab him and assassinate him on the Ides of March, the 15th of March, it is such an astounding thing. These are the people he put in power, but they believed that he had gone too far, okay, when he named himself the dictator for life, okay? Dictator, again, is a term where you only have 8 months of control. You saw that during the video last week. So when this happens, he is assassinated, and another civil war follows. This one, 14 very bloody years, okay? And ultimately, when it goes from a republic into a monarchy, okay, where a king is in power, or an emperor in this case, people are going to be just begging for stability, and they're going to get it, okay? So here we see that even the betrayal by Brutus was commemorated in a coin of the time, okay? Some pretty interesting little snippets from this one is more contemporary. It's it's a little bit after his death, but it's during the Roman period. This one is, of course, by William Shakespeare, so it's hundreds of years after, 1,000 years after his death, more, 1,600 years after his death. Okay, and this, it's fiction, but it's a beautiful fiction. We skip some of this. We go over here. So first off, the book is pretty wrong here on a few things. But one of the things that it does is it doesn't mention the most key figure to all of this. Okay, Augustus Octavian, who will be the Augustus. Okay, the cousin or nephew of Caesar. Sorry, the nephew of Caesar, young man. He is going to take charge, and he is going to win the Civil War. But he's not going to do it alone. He is not a military genius like his uncle was. he is going to rely on his best friend, a man who's the same age as him, Agrippa. Okay, Agrippa, which is his last name, it's like Marcus Agrippa, I think, is the pivotal figure who is going to win all of the wars. Okay, and Gaius Octavian Augustus is going to be the statesman. So Gaius Octavian Augustus is basically going to be in charge of all of the sort of things of state, and Agrippa is going to be in charge of all of the acts of war, okay, the lead general. And they are best friends. They are as close as you can get, never would think of betraying each other, okay? And it's that friendship, and you're going to see a few instances, if you really study the Empire, it's really awesome when you see these friendships and how powerful these bonds were in some instances. And this is one of the most powerful ones. Augustus could not have done it without Agrippa. And in fact, so much so that he makes his best friend Agrippa his legal heir, which is a little weird because it means that Augustus has his best friend, who's his same age, marry his daughter. Okay, so a little gross there. However, that shows how close they were and how important Octavian thought it was that Agrippa take control if he ever died. Now, Augustus is going to live longer than Agrippa, so Agrippa will never end up becoming emperor. But, he was the legal heir for a long time. Why do I go into that? Because I think it's really important to know Agrippa, because Agrippa was the one who won all of the wars for Augustus. Augustus does some great things. One thing, though, that he never does is he never becomes the emperor. Not in name, anyway. The main thing, it talks about how slowly he went. He never, ever called himself emperor or anything close to it. He called himself the first citizen, okay? And when he did that, it was a very clever move. He did not become dictator for life like his uncle did. He very specifically said that he was just the patron of Rome. He was just the first citizen, okay? And as such, he was not trying to take power. Now, technically, he had all the power, okay? He was emperor. We talk about him as emperor because he had all of the power. If he wanted something done, it got done. But technically, he was not an emperor, okay? He did not actually have that title, okay? A few things to talk about. The Praetorian Guard, these soldiers who are the only ones allowed in Rome, who are supposed to be upholding the emperor's authority, these are going to be central to the fights that's going to happen with a series of bad emperors, okay? And we're going to talk about this more if you guys come to summer school. We have a whole thing about the Praetorian Guard. But in any case, we're going to move on to a few things. One of the main things I want to talk about is this number right here. It is about as incorrect as you can get, to some extent. So the Pantheon was technically built in 27 BC. This was not built in 27 BC. This was built over 150 years later, okay, in like 167 AD, okay? And the book is absolutely 100% wrong on this, okay? What happened was a pantheon was built in Rome by Agrippa, the same guy who is friends with Augustus, okay? And it was built in 27 BC. However, it was pretty small, and it is going to get rebuilt. And it's actually going to get rebuilt twice, I think. The second time it's rebuilt, it looks like this. Okay, it's a whole from the ground up. They tore down the old building and rebuilt it. And this happens under Hadrian. Okay, again, 170 years later. But so this is not the building that was built in 27 BC. Okay, this building is a marvel of architecture. Okay, they did whole revolutionary new things, including using pots and bits of clay in the concrete itself so that it would be lighter on the top near this oculus, this eye. Really cool stuff, but this was not built in 27. This is 150 years later, 170 years later. So really frustrating that they got that so wrong. Ironically, this still has a sign out front saying Agrippa built this, because the tradition in Rome was even if you rebuilt a building, you gave the credit to whoever originally built the building. And so when Hadrian rebuilds it, he does not take credit away from Agrippa. Really cool stuff with what the Romans do, building all of these infrastructure. Again, as we've seen over and over again, really good emperors, really good kings and leaders will spend a lot of money on the infrastructure of a city and a country and a nation, okay? I think this is one of the most important things that any leader can do, is making sure that roads, bridges, like all sorts of infrastructure is up to date, is current, spending money on that. It always helps the country, because you can't buy these things from out of state. You can't buy them from out of country. So when you spend the money like that, it goes into the country and the area where it's from, right? The people who are building it live in those communities, and they spend money in those communities, and it builds the economy. Anyway, so I'm always a big fan of infrastructure stuff. And you see it over and over within the ancient world. And then usually, I think the most impressive thing about what Augustus does is Augustus is a great leader. Okay, he is an emperor or a king at his prime. He is excellent. The problem is the next 4 emperors after him are basically hot garbage. Well, the next 2 are hot garbage. The third one's not good, and then the fourth one's pretty okay. And then it's a hot garbage one, and then it's a really good one again, okay? But that's the impressive thing. His empire, Rome, did not fall apart when he died, even though the people who led it after him were not good leaders. That's the most impressive thing about Augustus, is that even when the leaders who came after him were not good, and we had that way back here, okay? Caligula, Nero, these 2 in particular, really, really bad leaders, okay? And yet, they, even after with them, okay, and Claudius in the middle, who's fine, and then Domitian, who's good. Not great, but fine, I guess. Nerva was better. Anyway, Nerva was very good, but Domitian, better than these 2. Even with all of these guys, okay, the empire survives 100 years before it gets a good emperor again, and that's really, really impressive. Okay. All right. I wasted enough of your time. Have a good one, guys. The question I want to ask you, is, let's get back here. Haven't gotten there yet. Here we go. Okay. The question I want to ask you is, do you think so Julius Caesar is assassinated by Brutus and these other senators because they did not want him to end the Republic. Ironically, of course, that leads to the end of the Republic. But do you guys think that they were right to try? Maybe they might have succeeded, right? Maybe they might have kept the Republic. But do you think that if they had not killed Caesar, the Republic would have ever come back? Or do you think it would have just been an empire again? Do you think keeping a republic, keeping a democracy is more important than the stability, than chancing a civil war, right? So they killed Caesar, and it did cause a civil war. But their goal was to try to prevent a dictator for life. Do you think that was a good goal or a bad goal? Right? I mean, do you think that they should have let? I mean, Caesar was competent. We all know he was good. Do you think they should have let him just be king for life? Do you think they were right to assassinate him? That's my question for you guys. All right. Have a good one. Bye.